Hey, this is Seagrove, and today I have a video for you that I think you will like. So a few days ago I put out this video about Rukan and how he tested over and over the same deck, game after game after game, learning every matchup, learning his deck super well, and how he's able to have a lot of success with that because of the way he tested and focused on one deck. But before that regional, his second one, he messaged me asking me when you're going to get out that meta forecast because he wanted to watch it and he wanted to know what he should be testing against, on what he should be teching for, etc. Because I put out that video encouraging you guys, to do what he did, I thought it would be good if we could have a video where we talk about what people should be testing or should be looking out for. So here is a lot of players' opinions on what you guys should be testing. But before I get into everyone else and those little videos that I did, Grant Manley wasn't able to do a video, but he sent me the decks that he said people should be testing. And he's just said Zoroark variants and Night March. He said those decks are pretty much broken, so just test those. Now, for the other interviews. All right, so what decks do you think people should be testing for Dallas?
All right, so I have a pretty unpopular opinion when it comes to this, and actually, the number one thing I've been testing is Gliscod Zoroark. I got top 16 at San Jose with it, and I think it takes pretty close matchups everywhere if played properly, and if played well, those close matchups can become pretty favorable. From what I've noticed, another thing that I think people should be testing is obviously Night March, since I think it's the best deck in format, and one of the safest plays going in. Like, if you're a player, I'd say just looking to get points out of the tournament, not say go super far. Night March is probably your call. And then something super spicy is Wailord, because if you run into a lot of Zoroark decks, then you'll win. Your Night March matchup's kind of shaky, which is why I probably will not be playing the deck. But if you're feeling risky and want to roll some dice, Wailord is your call. And that's about it, yeah.
Okay, how does Night March, what's the Night March Gliscod Zoroark matchup like?
So it's pretty interesting. Gliscod Zoroark's Night March counter is Oricorio, and the way I went about the matchup is at San Jose, I went 3-1 against Night March over the whole tournament in matches, and the way I went about it most times was my number one priority was trying to get off an armor press, so I could force the Night March player to overextend and discard a lot of Night Marchers, and then I could take over with Oricorio, and yeah, that was pretty much it. The Night March that I lost to was actually Rahul, and our games were pretty grimy. All three games, Getsis was involved, and the first two I drew out of it by top decking, and the third one I drew nothing and did not go well. But I think that matchup requires a lot of thinking, but with some practice, it can, I'd say, in the range of 45-55 to 55-45, depending on certain things.
So I'd say Zoroark variants in general. The card's just super busted. So you still got to test Night March, because that's going to be good with Zoroark. Skyfield Zoroark's good. Lycanroc Zoroark is good. Zoroark Gliscod's good.
Okay.
I don't expect this metagame to be the same as San Jose, even though nothing's changed.
Anything good without Zoroark?
I mean, Guardy's still good. I still like Guardy.
Okay, but not worth testing?
No, it still is.
Okay.
It's not on one of my top lists, but it's still really good.
All right.
So I guess the best two are outright the Night March list piloted by myself, Azul, and Pram. It was 3 of the top 4 slots. The second best deck, I believe, is the Lawn Zoroark list, the one that Keon, Liam Williams, Bodie Tracy, all of them popularized.
Yeah.
Those two decks were unequivocally the two most dominant decks in San Jose, as our Night March list took 5 of the top 32 slots, and their list took 5 of the top 32 slots. So those are the two best decks to be testing, and I think Guardy is worth looking at, but I think Zoroark Lycanroc is also worth looking at to a lesser extent.
Okay. The one deck that was really good, which was that Garbodor variant, sort of fell off Is that just because of Zoroark being resistant
Yeah.
to Psychic?
Well, yeah, resistant to Psychic as well as Zoroark can just easily get to 120 and blow something up on Garbodor's side. And on Garbodor's side, you need to have like the perfect Necrozma D-Valley spread. And when you get that, they can just Skyfield and get one Ace roll off, and suddenly their Zoroark is protected again. And they're gonna blow up your Necrozma, and you can't make like a big Espeon play because that's usually your only out. But they can mitigate that because Zoroark draws so many cards and has blowers and stuff. But if the Tapu Lele promo, which we are completely unclear on, does get released at its time and is legal for Dallas, it might make a change because you can spread and then move the damage how you want.
Okay, so if the Lele promo comes out, that'd be worth looking into.
Yeah, I would take a couple of minutes to stop and pick up Garb again, maybe.
So I think the top 2 decks are pretty uncontestedly Zoroark, Seismitoad, Muck, Lon Zoroark, and Night March Zoroark. So those have the best results. They're like very, very strong on their own. They're very strong into a lot of other decks. But I think like 2 concepts that are really, really strong in the format right now that aren't really seeing a lot of love are Item Lock and Ability Lock. So stuff like Garbotoxin, Seismitoad, Trevenant, I think those are super strong in the format right now just because like a lot of recovery, especially when it comes to special energy, is item based. So you can like remove 4 special energy and then your opponent can't get any back. But other than that, I think there are a bunch of decks that like you could test against and you could quite possibly see. And those would be Zoroark Lycanroc, Zoroark Golisopod, Gyarados, Wailord, Gardevoir, and Trevenant. I think those are all decks that you're fairly likely to see at least a couple of.
Okay, you went really quickly through what you called Lonzoroark, and I've heard it referenced before.
Yeah.
What are the Pokemon there? You said Seismitoad.
It's Zoroark, Seismitoad, Muck. It's the name that the creators gave the deck. It took 2 top 8 spots, I want to say, at San Jose, but it took 6 people into day 2. Very strong deck.
Okay. Do you know why it's called Lonzoroark?
It's named after Lonzo Ball. I don't know why they decided on Lonzo Ball specifically, but it is named after Lonzo Ball, the basketball player.
I think it definitely makes sense to be testing Night March with Zoroark. You definitely want to be testing Zoroark with Golisopod and with Alolan Muck and Skyfield and stuff. I think it doesn't hurt to mess around with Trevenant, but I don't know. The deck seems not as good as people, are saying. And then besides that, I think the only other thing maybe worth testing is something fighting, like maybe Medicham or Passimian or something that doesn't trade 2 prizes with Zoroark, but that can beat Zoroark. So,
Okay.
but yeah, that's it really.
That's really interesting. The Medicham, are you doing something like Shrine of Memories so you can hit for weakness? Or the Celebi or something?
I mean, I haven't really messed with Medicham, but it's something that I've been meaning to do for a while, so I don't really have a start on it yet. But if I were to start testing it, I would definitely start with the initial list, which would be, I think it would want to play probably definitely Shining Celebi. You would want to play Regirock EX. It would be like the lists from, when Medicham used to be popular. So pretty much the same thing, except I don't think I would play Shrine of Memories. I would probably play Brooklet Hill for consistency.
Okay.
And then I would just play 2 Celebi.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. No one's mentioned that yet. I would like to see something like that pop up because Zoroark isn't. Everyone's saying Zoroark and everything. So.
Yeah,
cool.
and the thing is, if you're playing Buzzwole and you're one-shotting a Zoroark and they go Hex and knock you back out, then it's, what are you doing? You're not going to win the game. It's the same thing as a Zoroark Mirror. So you got to play a non-EX.
Okay, so what decks do you think people should be testing for Dallas?
I think Night March is really, really strong. It's my second consideration, but of course the deck that I played at San Jose is really, really good.
Right.
People have been calling it Lonzoroark. That deck is honestly insane. I think Trevenant's a threat, especially because Cena was right last time with Gardevoir, that he might be right again with this heavy enhanced Trevenant build.
Yeah.
But I think those are probably the best 3 decks. Honestly, Waylord is really scary. That's another strong consideration. But I'd say Night March and Zoroark are the 2 best decks in the format.
Okay. And do you have any idea why people are calling it Lonzoroark?
Yeah. So, like, the full name of it is Lonzo Ballroark. And I think he's like a basketball player.
Right.
I'm not super into it, but a lot of my friends are making their profile pictures like Zoroark with his face on it. Yeah.
Okay. And is there any reason why they picked him, or they just like that guy?
Yeah. I think it's because the Big Baller brand, that might be his brand or something, but they all wear BBB. And so that's,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time. And for anyone who doesn't know who you are, do you want to tell like your most recent accomplishment or any other past accomplishment?
Yeah. So I recently top 8'd San Jose. I think I could have gone further, but it was my bad. I didn't play at all last season, but the season before that I got my Worlds invite, and I also got second place at San Jose Regionals in that year.
Cool.
I live in kind of the middle of nowhere in Oregon, so it's hard for me to get to events, but I tried my hardest.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Zoroark Toad, the Lon Zoroark, the one that Keon and a couple of others homies top 16, top 8, whatever, in San Jose with. That deck's going to be extremely popular. It's focusing on countering Night March with Seismitoad, Quaking Punch. Then you have Muck, which regulates out Shaman EX, and so you kind of have this all-around kind of control.
Okay.
The second one I would be testing, but don't expect for... I personally wouldn't touch it, Night March Zoroark. Even though it won, I think that's due to, one, the surprise factor of Zoroark being included to it. Peter Kickett just went around to a whole bunch of the top name players and was like, "Yo, play this. This is insane." And they're like, "All right, cool. We're in with you." I think it's a worse call now than it is before, especially with people trying to bring in some kind of hand or item lock or special energy lock in the future. But you need to test against it. You can consider adding Marowak into like its own list, like taking out Zoroark, but I don't like that. I like the concept of playing Zoroark, or something to counter Zoroark, at least for expanded. Zoroark Lycanroc is good. Rukan. It got second place from the guy who top with the powder on a couple of nationals ago, and I think it's solid. Yeah, that's all on my top list for those. Trevenant's going to come back, heavy enhanced hammer, similar to the list on limited list TCG. I know Sin is talking about like the latest broken deck. He says it's 50-50 Zoroark.
He says it's better than 50-50.
Yeah, that's dumb. All right, I love Sin, but lordy, you still just died an Evolution DC knockout, and
yeah,
you know you'll get Trev hands, and their deck is so much more consistent. So yeah. I think it's 40-60. Sorry, Cena, I know I love you. Control's going to come back in some form. Garbodor's going to be included in almost every deck, and it's going to be Giratina, Toad, or Noivern, or Miss Magius. I don't believe people really trust Finn when it comes to his list. Well, they see Miss Magius, and they're like, oh, I'm not going to pay for the paywall, but they know it's in the back of their head, but they're not going to like even factor it into their playing. I actually really like Finn's list. I think he's actually a super dedicated player, and I trust his logic on most of the things that we've ever discussed. So... I'm going to start testing into that too. I was playing Giratina for a bit and then Toad for a little bit, and I felt like I ran into moments when I would Karen punch Night March, and they would bring up a Zoroark and smack me for like 100, 120, and it put me in a really awkward position. Mm-hmm. So more than likely those decks are going to be packing 3 to 4 Enhanced Hammer, if not 3 Enhanced Hammer, 1 Zerosic, if they still consider Zerosic a card. So one of those control decks to be testing all that. Finally, Buzzwole Lycanroc and how it could potentially come over to Expanded. Gardevoir might see a little bit of play. I actually think it's going to see less play than usual because people like Night March and control decks so often. And those decks will be a lot more consistent than Gardevoir ever will be, at least in the Expanded. I'm personally testing out a few card bank ideas. I love Focus Ash and I love Puzzle and all those crazy stuff. So I got a few ideas up my sleeve. Sosa's working on Yveltal. And I think Keon's coming with a Donphan. If not, Mark's coming with a Donphan article. And so fighting's definitely going to see a rise. People can't play Grass because Grass usually takes a hard matchup against either Zoroark or Night March. And yeah, that's kind of on the radar that I have so far.
Okay, earlier you mentioned not being able to play Noivern because of enhanced hammer.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that with when you're shutting off items?
You same logic. You need to be using the second attack to not get popped by Zoroark for 120.
Okay.
And it's more detrimental in this deck than it will be in Toad, because Toad is basic, relies on a DCE, and you can get to it more consistently. Noivern, you have to play awkward stuff like Prism Energy and Blend Energy actually, and a few of other things. And
Okay.
I feel like when they enhanced hammer your DCE, it's not as bad as when they enhanced hammer your DDE.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll be like 120, you can't play special energy next turn. They're like draw enhanced, and then do something else and pass. I also think a lot. Everyone's gonna be adding Ranger back into their decks. So if you're playing control deck, expect them to Ranger and have a game plan against Ranger. If not, have something to mess with their hand. I'm personally testing peeking red card, and it's as dumb as it sounds, but it's actually fantastic if you play puzzle in your list.
Yeah.
So I've done like do this, punch, and they're like, okay, trade, pass, and like this punch, and they're like trade, pass, and I see like let them think a little bit. I was like, oh, let me see. So I look at their hand, and they hit the Ranger. They're just waiting for the other pieces to finally pop off on me, and you're like, nope, send it all back.
Okay.
Smack a Zoroark, So, or that's until you can get your Garb online. That's why everyone's gonna be playing Garb in the list.
Right.
So, yep.
Definitely should be testing for Night March, Zoroark, Alolan Muck, like Toolbox, and then Zoroark, Lycanroc. I think those are like the big three you need to test against. You can kind of dabble into like Trevenant or Sableye, but those are the big three you need to test against for sure.
Okay, people are starting to say that Night March is going to start losing to Zoroark now, because people will be more tech for it or more ready for it. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, the Zoroark Alolan Muck deck has a natural advantage versus it, but Night March is a deck that can tech against anything. So, like, if it targets the matchup, then I think it'll do a real good job.
Okay. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like the video if you liked it, and subscribe to the channel so that you can get more. And if you hit the bell, it'll guarantee you get a notification. If you don't, sometimes you'll get a notification when I put out a video. Sometimes you won't. But please subscribe. It's really encouraging. Thanks again.